Howdy. Well, this is my second video that I tried to make on this subject because in the first video I started going into too many details about the things I've been through, and I realized that might be upsetting to a lot of people, even though it's not them going through it. The people that are watching this are likely to be in a fragile emotional state, and I'm not trying to patronize anybody or anything like that, but first of all, the stories are long and involved, but I was just going through my history because I told my doctor yesterday, look, I've been through a lot of stuff, so I'll do it the way I should do it. Should have done it in the other video that I'm going to delete later. So this is what happened to me before I was 18 years old. When I was 9 years old, my brother committed suicide. I was there for it. I didn't see him kill himself or shoot himself. I saw him carry the gun out into the backyard. We had a grapevine. He went behind the grapevine and shot himself. The time that he shot himself, I knew something bad was going to happen. So I was hiding under the bed in my bedroom. I guess I was a pretty small 9-year-old if I could fit under a bed. So, brother shot himself when he was 9. When I was 16 years old, I had a spinal tumor removed that was impairing my ability to urinate and to walk. And they removed a thoracic vertebrae, so I have one less vertebrae than you do, most likely. Because they removed that vertebrae, my spine began to collapse between the period of when I was 16 years old and when I was 18 years old. So I had to have spinal reconstruction surgery. And that was in 1986, and I was 18 years old. And that's a 2-step procedure and involves a lot of stuff, like I could go into detail in another video, but I don't really want to now. Because of that surgery, which went excellently to the point where I was photographed and put in a medical journal as a wild success, which it sort of fits my life because of the ironic, ridiculous nature of that, because of that surgery, 2 years later, I found out I had CRPS, and that's why I was miserable from the years of 18 to the years of 20. I was like, they were chalking it up to post-operative things at first, and then when I went home, the stuff never went away that I was complaining about in the hospital. So, recapping, before I was 18 years old, brother committed suicide, spinal tumor, 2 more major spine surgeries with spinal reconstruction. I'm being an asshole again, I'm sorry. We had the suicide, we had the tumor, we had the spinal reconstruction, and we had the CRPS, all before I'm 18 years old, all before I'm legal. Well, I guess 18 is legal. Okay, let's say before I'm able to buy a beer, I went through all this stuff. So I told my doctor this yesterday. That's not the disquieting part. That's just my past. That's not the disquieting part of the interview I had with him. But I asked him, he said, well, what's up with the, your alprazolam intake? And I said, well, I can go 2 days taking half a pill and I fall back. And then 2 days seems to be the most I can do at taking half a pill. And then I fall back for 4 or 5 days sometimes. And I said, for instance, that was Monday when I was at the doctor's yesterday. I said, Friday and Saturday, half a pill. Sunday, 3 times that much. So I can make sure I can get some sleep so I can make it in here. He's like, okay. And I talked some more about it. And this is what he said to me. He said, usually we drop people off faster than that. And he told me I had a slow taper going on. A 50% reduction is a slow taper? I don't think so. And then when he said, usually we drop people off faster than that, I'm on my second, okay, let's do it this way. I had the 50% reduction. Since I've had the 50% reduction, I've had 2 refills. So that means if you drop people off faster than that, my current bottle of pills I'm on, it might not exist. He's saying he's making taking into account my health situation. This is wrong, people. This is not good. The other alternative, besides me having no pills right now, if I was a healthy person, is maybe 15 pills to get me through the month. And then I don't think he'd bother prescribing less than 15 pills. It'd just be no prescriptions. She's like, we usually drop people off faster than that. So I was talking to him because I wanted some reassurance. Because as we know, if you got a benzo addiction, the doctor has power over your sanity. Because your sanity is tied to this stupid fucking drug. I mean, people can only take so much of benzo withdrawal. It's so close to losing your mind. And I skipped that part about my past, but I had a psychotic episode between the ages of 16 and 18. So I know about losing your mind and losing touch with reality. And yeah, it's like, you wish you could talk to your doctor and there wouldn't be no pressure there, but how much more pressure can there be than talking to a guy who has that kind of power over you? It's like total power over your sanity in your life. That's a lot of pressure. And so I'm afraid to have any honest, open conversations with this guy, because if I say the wrong thing, it's going to alter my existence drastically, and I'm hanging by a thread right now. I can barely do the status quo, right now. And I was like, wow, I mean, how much experience has it? That's what I want to ask him. How many people have you dropped off of Xanax or benzodiazepines? How much experience have you had with this? And the thing that's really bothersome is they seem to just think everyone's the same. Like, you can drop one guy off in a 50% reduction and he'll just feel a little like he drank an extra cup of coffee. And so that means everybody's going to be like that. Well, guess what? People are all different. This is a very basic fact that I don't know why doctors miss. Everybody's different. Everybody's got different bodies. Everybody's got different nervous systems. Everybody's got a different past and different pressures in their life. How in the fuck does that make any sense to say we usually drop people off quicker? There's no usually. Everybody's different. Everything's an individual case. Did he misspeak? Am I parsing this too much? I'm thinking about it too much. But yeah, it's like, why is it? That's like the main thing that has to change is, first of all, make your patients aware that how potentially dangerous the substance you're prescribing for them is. Just let them know, dire warnings if need be. Whatever. Let them know what's up. That's the first thing. The second thing with this stuff is also, I forgot what the second thing was. Let's be honest here. I'm a little weirded out, and I've still got benzo brain, or whatever you want to call it. So I forgot what the second thing was. Let's see if I can pick up the thread of my spiel, or I'll just maybe scrap it all together. But yeah, the second thing was, don't judge everyone according to one standard. Everybody is different. As people go, I've been through 2 weeks in March where if I had a gun in the house, I 1,000% guarantee you I would not be here talking to you. That's how bad it was. And there's people that go through worse than what I went through. And I'm a dead man if I have a gun in the house. I'm not talking to you. That's how bad it was. It was bad. And there's people that go through worse symptoms than I went through. And there's also people that go through protracted symptoms. So, judging people according to an average, it's just stupid. You just got to go through each individual case, and there's no reason why not to be careful with something that's the most dangerous drug to be withdrawn from, period. It's got to be more dangerous than alcohol. The only two withdrawals that can kill you are benzo withdrawal and alcohol withdrawal if you're a relatively healthy person. Those are the only. It's like, it's just exasperating. I can see why people just get on here and they're crying and they're all frustrated. I bumped the thing. They're all frustrated and angry, and I'm a little red in the face right now just because it's just so aggravating, and I can't talk to the guy because the guy has that kind of power. If I say the wrong thing or if he just misinterprets what I say wrong, out comes the come next prescription time. We don't know what's going to happen. I would like to ask him to prescribe me Valium and then trust me to use the Valium to help me take less Xanax. But I'm afraid if I ask for Valium, he'll cut out the Xanax altogether. And Valium and Xanax, not the same thing. I've taken Valium while I've been going through this. And those little knives and needles and shit that poke at you that when you're going through withdrawal and that horrible, sickly, seasick feeling you feel, Valium don't take that away from me. Not for me. And I'm talking about not talking about everyone being individuals. That's another thing that I see people do on here a lot is they think everyone is like them. Well, everyone is not like me, and everyone is not the same. Everybody is different. So that's a habit I try to stop, is talking about like me, like my experience is everyone's experience. That's my experience with Valium, is that it don't take care of the Xanax Jones. It don't take care of that addiction. It just evens out the withdrawal symptoms, but you still got the withdrawal. There I am again. I still have the withdrawal symptoms. That was my experience with it. Now somebody else that I spoke to on YouTube said that they got taken off Xanax completely and switched to Valium with no take a little bit of Valium, take a little bit of Xanax, just from one to the other, and it worked out good for them. And I was like, well, that's great. You got a good doctor that at least would do that for you and not just rapidly drop you off of it. But yeah, he seems like a reasonable guy, and he was very reassuring in my last appointment, and now I'm all just disturbed by his attitude about I'm getting an easy road here. Well, I'm taking it easy on you. We usually drop people off faster than that. And doctors have all that education, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're smarter, perceptive people. And I'm not sure. That means they can do the book part of it. But I'm not sure if he's actually thinking this out, And I don't want to go there because I'm afraid like I said, I'm afraid to talk to the guy. But I want to go there and be like, look, man, I am about as atypical gets. You can't judge me according to how this goes for other people. And I have a bad heart. So, and I can feel my heart when my heart's messing up. So I can feel what's going on with my body. I can tell you, I can't have this conversation with him though. But I'm like, why are you doing this? What's with the 50% reduction on somebody with CRPS and AFib arrhythmia? Is do you want to lose your license? do you want to kill me and have my relatives sue? So yeah, I'm just, again, I was reassured for the last appointment I had with the guy where he's assured me that he wouldn't ever drop me off of it completely. And then this thing here where he's like, we usually drop people off faster than that. That shows that he's one of those doctors. He's not one of those empathetic type doctors where it's one of those guys hey, you're on your own, have fun with that type guys ordinarily. So maybe he actually is taking into account that I have so many health problems. And maybe I would have got dropped off completely and not gotten a 50% reduction. So yeah, like I said, I was reassured, and now I'm disquieted. And anyways, I'm long-winded. We all know this. So this is at the 15-minute mark, just for the sake of moving things along. I got oral steroids for my leg because well, they said my whole leg was swollen from the knee down. But I know my ankle was swollen and my knee swollen, and it hurt like holy hell walking in there yesterday. And it cost me $15 to get there instead of just hopping on my bicycle, which I'm a poor man. There's the phone ringing. I'm just going to talk through it this time. And anyway, I'm a poor man, so but I have poor relations, and they're like, I don't have any gas in the car, which you got to roll with it. You're kind of stuck. So because my leg was so bad, it cost me $15 yesterday because it cost me $10 for the ride, and then I smoked a couple of their cigarettes and felt, I was like, had to fork over $5 for cigarettes. I always smoke I'm a smoker, and I'm just a smoker who doesn't smoke when they're alone, and I'm alone most of the time, which is good for me. But anyways, after I go to a doctor's appointment, I don't care if it's if it's a cardiologist, I'm having a cigarette. That's just the way I am. If there's one available at all. I've bummed them at bus stops before coming home from the therapist when I used to go downtown and ride the buses downtown. So anyways, back to the knee situation. I'm on oral steroids, which the guy tells me may cause what do you say? Irritability. Just what I need, irritability. So I'm on steroids right now. Oh, yeah, right. And I took them wrong the first day. I didn't read the label. The label said your first day, you're supposed to, even if you get them at night, you're supposed to take like 6 pills at a time. And I was like, well, it says 2-1-2, 2 for breakfast, 2 for lunch, 2 before you go to sleep. So it's close to lunch, so I'll take 1, and I'll take 2 at night. I was supposed to take 6 yesterday. I took 3. So today I took 3 in the morning. And I'm going to treat today like the first day and just roll with it. You got to be careful with steroids because they're really, really bad for your liver. But, my leg hurt like a bitch yesterday, and I can't tell any difference yet. But usually it takes a couple days. I'm hoping for the best there. I was disappointed he didn't shoot up my knee. Stick a needle in my knee and shoot some cortisone in there, because that helped last time. It still took 2 days to help last time. So, yeah. Oh, I don't know if I have anything else to talk about besides that. Yeah, going into my past like I did when my take 1, the first try at this. I don't know if that's such a good idea. It doesn't faze me, but it might be disturbing to some people. Because, like I said, I've seen the darkness. And when I was in, I'm not saying y'all are a bunch of nutcases or anything like that, but when I was in the psych unit on the 13th, I was just talking about stuff that to me was amusing, and I guess there was a lot of people there on psychoactive drugs, and the guy that was running the group encounter type deal where you all sit around and talk, he was like, X-nay on the blood A. Yeah. He was like, no. He stopped me and interrupted me, and then, like I said in another video, this old lady put her hand on my arm and said, "You're scaring the people, honey." I'm like, well, that's not really my intention. It's not happening to them, but, like I said, I'm not implying that there's unstable people watching this, but I know that there might be empathetic people watching this, but people in a sensitive state. So maybe I'll go into that and I'll just label it, warning, danger, if I want to talk about my life and what I've been through and what I've had to live through so far. Oh yeah, they're roofing the house today. It's very quiet. It's oddly quiet for some people doing a roofing job. So maybe they're being lazy and sitting out there drinking beer for all I know. So anyways, I thought of a funny story I could tell. since I was so nervous yesterday for my doctor's appointment. I hadn't been out of the house in like 10 to 14 days because my knee was blowed up. At least I got something done. I got some steroids, so I'm in a better mood now, obviously. And it's wrong to inflict your bad moods on people unless you can share your good moods with them. So I have a story for you. Now, this is an interesting test of story structure too, because there's different ways to tell this story. But I'm going to tell it this way. So, I'm a young man. I'm in much better health. I'm actually, my resting heart rate was probably 70. I could ride a bike all over the place. I could walk I actually walked from one city to another to see if I could do it. And I'm maybe 30 years old or so, maybe late 20s. And so I'm feeling good. And that Risky Business movie had already come out several years before. And I happened to get up in the, I think it was toward evening. I was going to bed. I was in my socks and my skivvies. And I was like, oh, I don't really feel sleepy. So I got up and went and got something out of the refrigerator, ate it. And I got up again. And when I got up again, I had like one of those flights of fancy type moments. Because, I didn't have a shirt on, of course. But like in Risky Business, I was in my skivvies and socks. And socks can be dangerous. So I did a little spin. Like, woo, did a little pirouette. Down I go. Sock slips out from underneath me and I fall. And I reach forward like with one hand. And all my weight goes down on one hand. And my hand goes numb. And I'm like, fuck, that hurt. I'm like, whoa, what's up with this? And I go to get up and I can't move. I'm like, what the fuck? And my hand's connected to something and I'm not really paying attention. The lights in the room are dim. And here's the part where I have to change the story up a little bit. So, I'm in a very, very old building. And back in the day, probably made, well, the building's definitely older than when they made TV, but the wiring might be from the 60s or something in there. So back in the day, people didn't need that many outlets. So there wasn't that many outlets around in this building. I think I had like 2 in that kitchen, because there was like, there's like a post, I remember, and there was an outlet there, and I had the toaster to plug in, and I had something else to plug in, so I would always be unplugging things and plugging things back in, right? So I had this old-time microwave, and I had unplugged it and let the cord drop on the floor. Okay, the cord is a grounded plug, and it's one of those plugs that where the tines don't go straight out from the plug like this. They go up. It's like a sideways plug, we'll call it. So it was sitting on the ground with the tines poking up. Got it? So my hand went numb because I hit with all my weight on top of those tines. And I couldn't get up because I was plugged into the microwave. The plug was embedded in my hand. So I'm like getting up and I'm like, why is my arm not cooperating? And then I look and I'm like, I see in the dim light of my kitchen, I see the cord. I'm like, what the fuck? And I look at my hand and I'm plugged into the microwave. And my first response to this was not a logical response. It was a very emotional response. It was like, I gotta get this fucking thing out of my hand. But there wasn't nothing like that running through my head. That was the emotion I was feeling. So I immediately grabbed the thing and pull it out of my hand. No going to the emergency room. No carefulness, no nothing. I'm like, this plug, I am not a wall socket, and this plug does not belong in my hand. And I pull it out. I'm looking at my hand. 3 little jets of blood come spraying up from my hand, and I'm alone. And I start to go, I start to pass out. And I'm like, shook my head. I'm like, no, don't do that. And I pressed my hand on my side, and I was like, oh, but I had to shake my head, and I was like, I gotta stay awake. I can't pass out. I didn't think about calling 911 for whatever reason or calling for help or anything like that. But I think I might have even smacked myself in the face. But so there's blood all over me at this point. I just shot blood. It literally like made a little, like, let's see if I can do this. It made like little tiny like fountains coming out of my hand. I'm having troubles. It was in this part of my hand, like right here. and it's too tricky. I can't get the logistics worked out. So, anyways, you get the idea. I'm seeing like three little fountains of blood, like just going up like an inch, and I stopped the bleeding, and so I grabbed some paper towels, and I got blood all down my chest and on my boxers or whatever I was wearing, and I go into bed and I get in the fetal position and I'm just rocking back and forth like oh. But yeah, I was plugged into the microwave. I didn't turn it on to see if I was like a potato. If I wasn't like a potato clock, I didn't turn on the microwave to see if we powered up a little bit or something like that. Like I was a potato clock, and I was the potato, and the microwave was the clock. So yeah, there's a story for you. Yeah, that's see, that's funny to me. That might be a horrifying story to somebody, I don't know. I don't get that, I think it's because it's another human talking to you face to face that people get all wincy and twitchy over stuff like that, because good lord, look at what people watch for entertainment. Your average show, somebody's getting shot, stabbed, or otherwise mutilated, so what's a little blood shooting out of a hand from accidentally plugging yourself into the microwave? But like I was talking to my therapist, and I'm telling a story about my dental adventures, and her face is doing stuff, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna stop talking about that because you're unconsciously reacting to it and making faces. And she goes, yeah, I guess I kind of was. Yeah, she's a sense. I don't know how she's gonna roll being a therapist. She's a sensitive soul. Like, she's the one I was talking to about where she like cracks her knuckles and wrings her hands when I talk about stuff, and not talking about the stuff I talked about that happened to me before I was 18 years old either. Just talking about it, everyday things. I'm like, you sure this is the right job for you? Um, anyways, that's 27 minutes, and as you know, I can monologue like a mofo. Call it a gift, call it a curse, call it loneliness, call it whatever you want. But hopefully these steroids will help my leg, and I can get moving around and get out of the house more often, because just staying locked up inside yourself, you know, not talking to people and not going anywhere, and yeah. So thank you all for listening. Since I made a video yesterday, this one will be under half an hour, which for me is basically a hello. And yeah, I'm being a little bit douchey now. I just had douche chills over that hello thing. But yeah, it's nice to be in a good mood for a change. I haven't been in a good mood for a couple of days. Um, like I said, I'm still disquieted by my doctor. I'm like, oh, this is one of those guys that people talk about on YouTube. One of those unsympathetic guys that don't seem to get the whole. I don't think anybody gets benzo withdrawal from the outside, though. I was trying to talk to my niece about it and how it is. It's not enough to say like this is what I used. I was like when you're in benzo withdrawal, if the bluebird of happiness landed outside your window and started singing you a merry tune, you would blow its fucking head off with a shotgun just to shut it the hell up. But there's really metaphors aside. No, you can't come up with anything to describe this to people. It's like people know edginess and people know nervousness and confusion and all that, but this is something different. I'm not a young person, and as we know, I've been through all kinds of shit, and there's nothing I can compare to that, because it's so all inclusive. It feels like everything is wrong with you. Like, you got the confusion, your brain fog, you got the edginess, you got the weird ideas. It's just like, it's really, how do you explain that to somebody? And especially me, somebody that can't express negative emotions. I can just try to articulate it verbally, but there's some things where words are never going to explain. you know no matter how gifted you are at using language, some things just have to be experienced And you're better off being ignorant and not experience it. So you're better off actually being ignorant of this benzo withdrawal experience. But at the same time, you want to let people know in your life that haven't experienced it what you're going through, so they know how to behave around you or why you're acting a certain way or whatever. And all the world, how's that expression go? There's all the difference between world and want. There's all the difference between reality and what we want. And yeah, the one dude that I talk about all the time that's been really good to me through this, he don't have a clue about this kind of thing, but he's just careful. I don't know why other people can't be similarly careful. You know, he's just a sensitive soul, I guess, and knows I'm going through something horrible, and he knows my past, so he knows if I'm saying it's horrible, god damn it, it's horrible. Because he knows all the things I've been through and stuff. And these other people in my life, they know all the things I've been through, but they don't seem to take it seriously, or they don't seem to give it a thought. You know? And that, I don't understand that. I guess I'm not gonna understand that. But I guess you just have to say you're not gonna get 100% unqualified support in any situation, and this one is a situation, so it's just not going to happen for you. You have to be really selective about the people that you spend time around, because I don't know how it is for other people. Again, I'm going to speak out of my eye. Speak from the eye, as they used to tell us in the group. But in my experience, oh, there he goes again. See, that's just another consequence of the benzo thing. Well, I used to be able to orate. I used to be able to monologue and talk. You wouldn't believe it. I could save things in my mind, back burner things, circle back around to things 15 minutes into a conversation. I can't do that anymore, and I think that's a consequence of the benzo thing. It may come back, it may not. But like when I'm talking to somebody, and I talk to people that are similarly long-winded to me, and they talk a lot slower. So I'll have something I want to say that relates to what they're saying, but I don't want to interrupt them, so I'll just let them go on, and they'll go on for, sometimes 10 minutes. And in the old days, I could circle around and pick that up, but now when I reach for that pot back there that I put on the back burner, there ain't nothing there but a burner. It's not there no more. So yeah, I have issues with that, and I'm getting older, so I had a hard life, and I'm 50, which I guess is considered still middle-aged, but let's face it, I got a lot of miles on me. So I don't know how much of that is age, my slipping in mental acuity is age, or the benzo thing. I think it's the benzo thing, frankly. I think I could still be able to do that. That might come back, it might not. That's the only loss I have, is being able to bookmark things in conversation, and being able to go on those tangents and circle back around to the path and find the path again. Go on that little hike and like, oh, what's over here off of the path here? Let's check this out for a few seconds, and then go back and get back on track, and keep that through line, keep that story going. Now I go back over there and I pick a few berries, and I come back and I can't find the path. Now that I've bent your ear for another few minutes, just out of ego and vanity, I feel like I owe you another story. So let me see if I can sum it up. See if I can think of one that's a good one. Oh, I got hit by my own personal tornado. You'll love this one. So this is about a year and a half ago. No, it was about 2 years ago now. Because I'm looking outside now, and it's spring, and it was spring when this happened, and I had been inside all winter, and I decided to go fishing with my brother and my cousin. This is a small pond, and it's sunny out, and I'm not walking too good, so I'm sitting in a chair. I'm just sitting in a chair fishing, and we had just got there. Now my brother is off to my right. He's about 30, 40 feet away tops. And my cousin is across the other side of the pond. The sun is beating down. Beautiful day. A little bit breezy. And all of a sudden my cousin from across the pond says, "Hey, there's a tornado coming." My cousin's really not like, he doesn't joke out of context. So I'm like, I'm look up at the sky and I'm looking around for a tornado, and I'm like, this is not the kind of day that tornadoes happen. And then I look out on the surface of the water and I see a circular disc moving back and forth on top of the water, where it's like a round whirlpool looking thing, maybe 10 feet wide. And it's just going like this, like back and forth and back, and like in a looping, snaking pattern, just moving around. And I'm looking at it, and little sprigs of water are flying up off of this 10-foot disc in the middle of the water that's swirling around. There's like spray coming off of it. You know, I'm not seeing anything like a funnel or anything like that. So I'm not even thinking at this point. I'm just experiencing. I'm just looking at this, like, I'm not even thinking, what the fuck is this? I'm just in the moment, like looking at this, experiencing this, because I've never seen anything like this, right? So I'm just transfixed, hypnotized by this thing I'm seeing, this odd visual phenomenon that I've never seen before in 50 years of fishing. And all of a sudden it stops doing this and just makes a straight line right for me. And I'm sitting in the chair. And I'm like, then I had a thought. I'm like, this is going to hit me. I'm like, I can't move. I'm not. Okay, here we go. That's what I thought, though. I was like, this is going to hit me, because I was like, knew I didn't have time to move out of the way. So it hits me. And it's all of a sudden like being plunged into, it's 45, 50 mile an hour winds. I'm leaning forward in the chair, trying to keep from falling over. My shirt's trailing out behind me, and my shirt is almost flying up off of me, because it's just it was crazy. It was like being on a really big roller coaster, that first plunge down. So I put my hands up in the air and I said, "Hoo, hoo, hoo," just like I was on a roller coaster. And it lasted for about maybe 5 seconds, like 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, like between 5 and 10 seconds it lasted. It lasted longer than I thought it would, just because what I saw was only 10 feet wide on the water. The actual tornadic, the little mini tornado that hit me, was much wider than that. But it wasn't wider than 30 or 40 feet, because it didn't hit my brother at all. And I was like, did you feel that? Did you? And he just like, no. And he said, I saw your shirt flapping in the breeze, though. So yeah, I got hit by my own personal tornado. A little mini tornado hit me. And there's 3 guys there, and it got me. So, you could make a lot out of that if you had a certain type of mind. You could make a whole lot out of that. Wasn't it some character in the Bible that got sucked up in a whirlwind? Elijah, I think, got sucked up in a whirlwind. Or I could say that, oh, this is God telling me, like, this ain't going to be your year, son. You're going to go through some more shit. Or it could be you could take it to being that, oh, I'm special. I got hit by a tornado. These other 2 chumps, they didn't get nothing like that. But yeah, stuff like that I couldn't make up. That's exactly how that happened. That was a fun, yeah, that was one of the more fun, interesting, unique experiences I've ever had. I didn't get knocked over in the chair, but it was like gale force winds. It was like I had to lean forward and shit to keep from tipping over. And yeah, just that moment of seeing that disc moving around on the water and seeing the spray coming off it, that's like indelible in my mind. And then went like halfway across the pond like that, and then just came straight for me. Like it either found a path in the currents where it was like an atmospheric thing, like that was a path in the atmosphere, or it just decided it wanted to hit me. You know, who knows why these things happen? And I'm not a big guy like on attaching meaning to everything. Or I know there's a lot of people out there that do that kind of stuff. One more story. Um, I didn't share this one either, but this just happened when I went to my dental appointment on the 13th. CRPS is a very rare disease. I used my insurance to get a ride, and the person was my driver also had CRPS. I've had it for 32 years. I've only met one other person who's had it. Now, I haven't sought treatment for it, or I probably would have, of course, met other people, but just in the course of going through my life, going and going to doctors and being in hospitals and just meeting people, CRPS is still a rare disease. So I'm like, people would attach significance to that, two people with CRPS just happened to meet or whatever. She gave me her phone number, which, she drives a taxi, so she could give me her phone number and not say, like, here's my phone number and leave herself vulnerable or whatever like that. But she's like, if you need a taxi or anything like that. And I'm like, no, this is about the conversation we have and the unique experience of CRPS that we share. This isn't about, it's not about that. But she had that, she had that little emotional out. So it's not, she could tell herself, that, yeah, the guy didn't know what was up, but I knew it was up. I'm sorry I wasn't physically attracted to her. Uh, I guess I could. Personality wise, she had like a lot of people that go through severe disease and stuff. They're like forceful personality. She has one of those people where it's like you have to be that way sometimes to go through a whole lot of trauma and a whole lot of bad things in your life. That's one way to deal with it. One effect that it has on people is it like concentrates them. They have to summon up so much of the life force and concentrate their will and all that, and they're just real forceful. We would not work well together. I couldn't deal with them gale force winds of that tornado hit me. Whatever her name, or her name was Nikki. Yeah, the Nikki tornado every day. I couldn't handle that, man. That's a lot of force. Yeah, I'm more of a mellow character. Uh, Not really. Yeah, I'm not equipped to deal with that. But yeah, that's see, people could attach significance like that, and if I was a different type of person, I'd be like, oh, this, what's the odds of this woman with CRPS meeting me and we having that in common, and then she gives me her phone number, and I could call her, and we could develop a relationship, and blah blah blah. And her husband, by the way, just passed within the last 2 years, so she's probably been lonely and ready for somebody else and all this. And I'm like, nope, I've had enough misery in my life. I do not need to invite more of it in there. Um, I, that's another thing is when you get older, you know yourself pretty well, and you know what would work with you. And that was always my problem when I was younger with getting laid, is because I'd see the person, and I'd be like, I could see down the road. I knew myself, and once I got to know the person, and I'm not the type of person. I'm the type of person that I'd have to get to know you a little bit before I ever went there, and once I got to know, I could see how it would all play out and see how it would be. And a lot of people, either their physical needs take over, or they just are not that in touch with themselves and in touch with how they're not that, what would you call it, what do you call like seeing down the road, perspicacious, I don't know, think of a word for me. Can't see the future that well. They're not Nostradamus when it comes to how people are going to get along together. But yeah, attaching significance to things or events, usually not a good idea. I've done that in the past, and um, a lot of people that believe in God, and they like want to think things happen for a reason. I believe in God, but I just don't think, I think he's seen a billion of me come and go. We'll talk about him in anthropomorphic terms, talk about him like he's a person. I mean, I don't know God any more than anybody else knows God. It's just it's these are all just ideas that I have, but it's like people in my situation, for instance, I'll change it around a little bit, and they'd be really angry at God, and be like, "Why are you doing this to me? Why, all that stuff before I was 18 years old, I never had a chance." And that's only the barest sketch of what went on in my life in my formative years, of how hard it's all been. It's like, what, if you attach significance to like meeting somebody in more or less a cab ride, and what about my life? What significance could I attach to my life? I was having another thought today, because I do have a lot of thoughts. Not all of them are well grounded, but I was thinking about. I can't think of the name. There's a name they actually have for it, but um, somebody in my situation that's been through so much, they want to find some way to make it all worthwhile. They want to find, it's like all that badness that went before. You want to find some way to make it seem like it was worth it to go through all that, and to find meaning in some way. That all that had to mean something, me going through all that, And it could be, for me, it could be something simple as sharing that story and sharing that pain with people. You know, that could be the only meaning that I could draw from this, is to share it with other people. As far as like what's going to happen in my life, come on, you know, I'd like to believe in miracles. I'd like to believe that things are going to work out for me, but I'm 50 years old. The most I can hope for is to be in less pain, and to still keep being a good person, and to find days like today where I have a certain amount of happiness. And like I said, the only meaning I can see out of going through all that is for somebody else to get something out of it, and um, that somebody else could be you, for all I know. I'm all like moved and stuff. How you feeling? Sometimes it's nice to just enjoy a moment. You don't have to fill all the silences. I guess that's why I tried to write. Well, I didn't try to write. I was a pretty good writer, but while I'm here in this place, emotionally, I'm 30 years old. I've never really had a clue as far as what I wanted to do with my life. There's some fortunate people in the world. They always knew what they wanted to be, but I never knew what I wanted to be or what I wanted to do. I was just I was confused all the way up until I was 30. 20s, I didn't know. I had all that health and vitality, and I had no idea what to do with it. I'm going to take a drink of tea. It's probably cold by now, but if you give me a second. This is tough in a reclining position. So anyways, this is in the late 90s, and I had no clue what I wanted or what I wanted to be. Now, I knew a guy that worked at Goodwill as a driver. So he'd always bring home stuff from Goodwill. So he brought home a typewriter, and I was always allowed free passage into their house, you know. So I knock on the door, and I don't get no answer. I don't know if I had a key or the door was just open. They were pretty wacky. They'd leave their door open sometimes if they were only gone. They didn't realize they lived in the city. But anyways, so I walk in there, and there's this typewriter and this other stuff from Goodwill sitting in a pile, and I think, well, they'll probably be home in a few minutes. Yeah, the door was unlocked, by the way, so yeah, that's why I thought they'd be home in a few minutes. So I'm like, I wonder if this typewriter works. And there was a piece of notebook paper there, and with lines on it and the holes. So I put it in there, and I wrote, "An old wound can kill you." I'm like, okay. Then I just left my mind blank, and then I wrote some more stuff, and then I wrote some more stuff, and then before I realized what I had done, I had written an actual short story, a very short story. It covered one part of the notebook paper and a little bit on the back when I flipped it over. I just was dumbfounded. I'm like, that's the last thing. I just want to test out to see if this typewriter worked. The last thing I had planned on doing was writing a story. So, and you know how I love stories by now. So I'm like, this is actually a pretty interesting story. And so I'm like, I wonder if I can do that again. That was pretty cool. I didn't write no more that day, but then I went home and I sat down in a chair and I put a board across the chair, and I wrote a second short story, and then I wrote a couple more. And I don't know, maybe I wrote like 7 short stories, and I'm like, I wonder if I could write a novel. And well, I got this one short story that I really like about Blackfeet Indians and a Blackfeet Indian boy. And I wonder if I can make that into something. So I was like, well, I'm gonna have to take this seriously. So I went to the library, and no, I didn't have any internet. I think the internet was a new thing back then, but I didn't have any internet. So I went to the library and I got all the books I could on Native Americans, and I studied the region. Because in the short story, it wasn't defined, but I started reading about Native Americans, and I was like, well, I'm going to make them a Blackfoot Indian or Native American. The book said Indian, so blame the book for that misspeak. But anyways, I read all these books. I want to make them a Blackfoot from the Blackfeet Indians in upper Minnesota, because those are some mean sons of bitches. And they had the whole buffalo culture built around the buffalo, and they were one of the last holdouts. They were, they other people had made peace with the white eye, the invaders from across the ocean. They didn't make peace. So I was like, I like these guys. I like these motherfuckers. So what I'm going to do is they're going to be, I'm going to use all what I read. But I was so hot to trot to write this novel that I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't put all. I read, I don't know, maybe a dozen books. I didn't put in a whole lot of time researching it, because I was ready to go. I was spoiling at the bit. This is what I should have been doing all along, and I had no idea. And I'm 30 years old. So I was like, yeah. So I started writing. It took me about 11 months to come up with the finished product. I laid off 1 month because I kind of got stuck. And if I've got your attention this far, I think I can risk another story. So, I'm writing this book and I'm stuck. And I'm like, what? Shit. I'm like, I don't want to force it. I said I could try to force it. I don't want to, though. I want it to, the way it's been working out so beautifully, and everything's fit together so nicely. And I'm just going to lay off, just let it sit in my mind a little bit and see what I can come up with. And then it just wasn't coming, and I'm like, well, I'm going to actually go through something that my character is going through. And then I'll be able to write about it. I'll just put myself in his place, and I'll be able to write about it. And there won't be no imagination involved, because I'll have experienced it. I'm like, I can do that. The problem was the thing that I picked was a 3-day water fast. The character in the book was going to do 4 days. I was only going to do 3 days because I figured 3 days might kill me, but 4 days would kill me for sure. So I was going to do 3 days. That's what I was shooting for. So no liquid at all by mouth for 3 days was my plan. And then just to write about how I felt and what it was like and stuff, because the character in my novel is very disillusioned, and he's going on like your I don't quite want to call it a vision quest, but it's the best thing I can come up with right now. He's going on a vision quest where he's just gonna like live or die. We're gonna find out what this shit's about right now. I'm gonna go out there and live or die. I can't live the way my mind is now, so live or die. I'm gonna go out there and whatever powers that be are going to speak to me, or I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be dead. So I went ahead and I started out. The first day wasn't too bad. The first day, no, I was still eating, but no liquid at all by mouth. Nothing. I was eating a lot of eggs and toast. And the second day comes around. The second day, I start to feel some shit. I start to feel that dehydration kick in. And I get the brilliant idea to go for a walk. You do not want to do that when you're dehydrated and put that demand on your body. So I go for a walk, and I used to be able to walk, God, miles. But I go for like maybe a mile walk. I get there, and I'm all dizzy and shit. I feel sicker than fuck, man. My stomach is just a mess. So I'm sitting by this little stream. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to make it back home. But I guess sitting here ain't helping matters. So, and I had no cell phone on me. I had nothing. And I was in do not give a fuck mode. I was with the character. I'm like, whatever happens here, happens here. So I had a very unsafe thing to do, especially I had CRPS. I didn't have a bad heart at that time. I had CRPS though. So I walk home. I'm a little staggering, and my head's coming and going, and I'm dizzy. By the time I get home, I sit down, and I'm like, whew, Jesus. Well, maybe I'll eat something. So I go to eat something. At this point, I'm probably like 36 hours with no fluids, and having taken about a 2-mile walk. So later in the day, I'm like, well, not later in the day. I did eat something then, but this is later in the day. I go to eat, and I'm like, I had a toaster in the same post structure that I'm talking about, where I was unplugging plugs and just letting them drop. So I unplugged the microwave that later on I would be plugged into, and I plug in the toaster. Now the toaster is one that doesn't pop up, because it's one of them Goodwill specials. It just decided it wasn't going to pop up no more. So you'd have to watch the toaster. So I go in the other room and I sit down. Big mistake, because your brain's not right when you're dehydrated. So I see these clouds of smoke coming in, because I lived like in a big hallway. I was in one of those apartments with no doorways, so there's no doorway between the living room and the kitchen. So this big column of smoke. I'm like, I smell it first. I'm like, oh, what the hell? And I look at it, and then I was like, where's that smoke coming from? And I had forgotten about what I was doing so completely that I actually followed the smoke like a cartoon character, walked out in the kitchen, and my eyes followed it to the toaster. Until I saw it coming out of the toaster, I did not understand that I had set my toast on fire. So I unplugged the toaster. And yeah, I don't know what I did about the fire. Trying to remember. It's been a long time. I think it was mild. So I just went out. But yeah, there was a little fire in there. With toasters, that's what it was. It's the toast itself did not catch on fire. The crumbs beneath it, because I'm a bit of a slob, so I didn't shaking out toaster crumbs and stuff wasn't my thing. So I had set the toaster crumbs on fire, and that's what was partially creating some of the smoke. And the toast was of course black and stuff, but I made that way too long. So anyways, at this point, I'm like, I am not safe to be alone if I'm going to do this. This is in about 48 hours with no fluid by mouth. So I call up my brother, and I'm like, man, you feel like coming over and visiting me? He's like, yeah, today'd be a good day for that. And I'm like, cool. I don't tell him nothing about it on the phone. He shows up. He takes one look at me, and he's like, dude, you look gray. I never heard that before. You look pale, or you look gray. And I'm like, yeah, well, sit down a minute and get comfortable. I'll tell you why. And I told him that, and he's like, dude, you got to drink something. I was like, you can't do this to yourself. And I'm like, well, I'm about 50 hours into it. I'll be okay. He's like, he kept talking to me, and he was like, no, yeah, you're almost set your house on fire, dude. I'm not going to be here with you overnight. I'm not staying at your house. And it's like, yeah, you got to. He was already thinking that my mind was gone from dehydration, that I was already delirious. I think, I don't know. I'd have to ask him about that, but he pretty insistent about drinking. I'm like, okay, I guess 50 hours is enough. So I get some water, and it was weird. It was like I didn't even want to drink it. Was taking sips off of it, no gulps. I was like, it wasn't like, oh, I need water, like you see on TV or whatever. I had like a glass about yay tall of water, and it took like 15 minutes to drink it. And I think I felt better within an hour or so after drinking the water. But yeah, that's how seriously I took what I was doing. And I know that when people found out that I did that, they were like, the dude's crazy. And I'm like, well, why is that crazy? I'm investing a year of my life into writing a book. And why is that any crazier than starting a fight in a bar, or like even riding a motorcycle is crazier than that to me, man. Look what can happen to you on a motorcycle. So I didn't consider that a crazy thing to do. So I had my character in the book. Was able to write about that with authority. And then from there it was easy. No pressure at all on the ending. I still don't know how that happened, because you figure you don't want to fuck the ending up. So I already had my epilogue written because I had written it out of order, but there was no pressure at all on the ending. But yeah, I did that. And that was the most important time in my life. Those 4 years when I was writing. Then something horrible happened, as horrible things tend to happen to me, that I haven't really tried to write fiction since. And I wrote maybe 7 short stories, and 2 relatively short novels. And I created something unique that is called the 2 novels Slices of Bread, and the short story The Ham in the Middle. I made a ham sandwich, but it all fits together. And anyways, I'm not sure. Like I said, that's the most important time in my life, and that will be there. And also, that will be there after I'm gone. I'm not going to have any children. I don't have any children. I'm not going to have any children. So, giving birth to that, whatever that is. The problem is I don't have any ambition or health or anything left. And like I said, I had something really terrible happen around the time of the Iraq War that changed the course of my life. And I've talked about enough here. I don't want to throw that on you too. But yeah, I took that serious as death to me. That was life and death to me when I was writing that novel. And then the other novel, I'm like, I'm going all in. I wrote that novel first, then I had this other novel. I'm like, I don't know if I had a premonition. I think that might have been the word I was looking for earlier. But I was like, man, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to do this. People have fertile periods where they can do this kind of thing, and then maybe they don't write ever again. So I was like, I'm going all in. I'm throwing my whole self into this. I was like, I really put a lot of effort into the Blackfoot novel. But this novel here, I'm I'm throwing my whole life into it. I'm throwing everything into it because effort wise, I put maximum effort into the Blackfeet thing, but I didn't go all in the way that I went all in the second novel. Then I went through a period of time where like I'm going to be a writer. I always thought I was like I'm already a writer. I've read a lot of novels. It's like this isn't the greatest thing ever written, but this is better than a lot of things that I've written that I've read. This thing I've written is better than a lot of things that I've read. A lot of things. So um, if that stuff can get published, my stuff can get published. I said, but I'm going to need a reason, and it's like I'm was a hermit writing for 4 years, man. I want a woman. I want to find somebody, I want a relationship. Uh, so I stopped writing, and I was just kind of like hanging out, trying to meet people. Um, that didn't kind of work out for me. That's all. And CRPS, tricky business because it has stages. There's the phone again. I'm ignoring it again. But yeah, I'm winding down anyway. That's an hour and 6 minutes. I'm 50 years old. That's a long life, and in its own way, it's an eventful life. It's very odd since I haven't really done anything. I've done things, but I've always been outside of society so completely that I'm always been outside. I've always been outside looking in on everything. The level of alienation that I've gone through, I knew that my brother was going to kill himself when I was 9 years old. I knew what was up. That's an alienated kid, that sees a guy carrying a gun who says he's going to go back there and shoot some rats because we had like a rat problem. Um, and he's going to go out there and shoot some rats, and he shot himself instead. And that's the degree of alienation we're talking about. And alienated people are people that have trouble being in the moment, or the people that are the outsiders and stuff. Those are the ones in school that you see that are completely miserable. That guy was me. And it was so sad because I was such a good looking kid. It didn't do me no damn good. Uh, Girls used to come up to me, and they didn't do that back in the day. I was such a good looking kid, and that it ain't even bragging. How can you take credit for being good looking or having good hair, which is now gone? Uh, if I had it handy, I'd show you a picture of me. I don't have that many pictures. I'll tell you what. I'll put a thumbnail up on this video of what I used to look like when I was 20 years old, and then you can extrapolate. Because I look like a young 20-year-old in the video, and you can see me then, or what I look like. Um, with my so-called, so I showed that picture to somebody, and they're like, dude, you had rock star hair. And I'm like, well, what do you want? It was the 80s. um, but yeah, none of that stuff did me any good because of the degree of alienation we're talking about here. And being so far outside of it, man, I was like, I didn't have a clue. I was outside my own sexual urges, man. It's pretty messed up when you're young. You have girls coming up to you and saying, I had a dream about you last night. How you gonna fuck that up? Like I had a girl. Uh, I was older then. I was like in my 20s, but I was actually telling us, talking, and I said, man, there was all this stuff going outside, and I was like, man, there was these cop cars were going by. Something big was going down. I was like, something crazy, man. And this girl that was I was in a drugstore buying something or another, and she was there, and she said, and me with no man to protect me. Now my toothless old ass. But back then, man, I was like, that's not subtle. I said, like, yeah, there's all craziness going out there with all these cops running down the road. And she was like, and me with no man to protect me. I was like, why don't you just reach across and grab me by the nuts? It'd be less subtle. But yeah, Oh, I don't know what that had to do with anything. And I'm starting to be tired of myself and my own ego and vanity. But anyways, I think this one was pretty interesting. Anyway, I at least shared a lot of myself in it. And maybe I'm not interesting. I could live with that. But yeah, the type of person I am and the type of person I was, not the same thing. So bashful when I was young. It's such a waste being bashful. Such a waste being all introverted and withdrawn inside yourself. And I understood why I was like that and what I came from and what I had seen that made me like that. But it's just it's just such a waste looking back. But it's funny now. Like everything else that happened back then, I'm kind of like past it. It's like it happened to somebody else. I told a story about um, since it's not exactly the same subject, but I was pretty young, and I my priapism story that I had that I put on the internet that I can't take down, which maybe I should take down, but it's in the account one pork farm one. I tell a story about having priapism as a young man. Um, yeah, it's just funny to me. That stuff. That's like it happened to somebody else. I'm a different guy now. You know, that's like all that happened to somebody else, and so that's why it's like no big deal to me talking about somebody almost killing me or having priapism in a hospital and walking past the nurse's station and have them all laugh at me. That shit's funny as fuck to me now, and I still think that's a funny story. And I think I told it well enough. I mean, I'm trying to get better at the whole art of oral storytelling, but man, it's rough. It's a lot easier when you got time to sit there with a pen and write stuff down and get it all just right, and then you can go back and fix it and show it to people later. When you're telling a story, you don't get to fix it. When I told um, my octopus joke, which I don't know, I think I left that video up there. I screwed up the punchline. You can't go back and fix the punchline. It is what it is. Uh, you got to roll with it. That's like a lot of times when I misspeak. It's like playing through your mistakes on guitar. It's the hardest thing in the world to do. And it's like a lot of times when I misspeak, when I'm talking to y'all, I just work with what I throw it out there. Just like there, I use some improper grammar. I love improper grammar. I love the word ain't. I love saying shit like I just throwed it on out there. I love colloquialism and all that stuff. And now I'm being tiresome to myself, so I think this is enough. And if you sat through this whole video, well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Um, Now I got better eat something because I haven't eaten anything all damn day. And I'll go back and have a look at this and maybe eat a sandwich while I'm doing it and see if I want to put it up or not. But I'll put it up. I mean, it's not a matter of if I'm going to put it up. I just took the one down because I mentioned crime in it and stuff. I'll put this one up. I mean, I won't be ashamed of who I am. This is who I am. And I'm 50 years old. I ain't going to change. Why I have this habit of looking at my hands, I don't know. But anyways, I'll be back in a couple of days. I can't do this all the time, just because it's healthy to do some of the time, but all the time that would be unhealthy, I think. I, um, like I said, thank you for listening, and I'm going to work on this long goodbye thing. I will fix that, and I'll see y'all next time. Y'all be good. Bye bye.